Hello and welcome to Intro to Design. This is Tyler with 3D Printersaur, and today we're going to go through some basic features of any 3D design software. The first thing you're going to have to do is find a software that works for you. I'm currently using Autodesk Inventor Professional 2018. There's other paid softwares like SolidWorks and free ones like Fusion 360. However, that one does have a subscription, I think, to get some extra features. It's been a while since I've used it. However, everything I'm going to show you will translate in most of these softwares that are out there. So we're going to make a box and show you some of these features. To start off with, you're going to do a 2D sketch and choose a plane. So I'm going to choose the XY plane for this example, and I'm going to start making my box. We're going to make a rectangle, and then we're going to just dimension it 3 inches by 2 inches. Apologize if you prefer metric system. I use imperial even though I'm Canadian. It's just in my profession, I've always used imperial. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to notice that it floats. So you can do a couple different things to make it more constrained, and you really have to constrain things to keep them from not moving around, because if a sketch moves around, you can actually lose some of your features down the road. So the first thing you can do is just dimension it from an origin point. Pretty basic. You can press the equal sign and make it equal and divide by 2, so then it'll change as you change your dimensions, as you can see, which is okay as well. But to do less work, what I actually prefer to do is a constraint, and some software doesn't have this, but most do. So I'm going to start off with a vertical constraint, and I'm going to find the center point of this line here and make it vertical to the center point of the origin, and then I'm going to do a horizontal to this side, and it does that. So now we have a fully constrained sketch. You can see it's blue. It says it's fully constrained on the bottom here. And now we're going to extrude it to make a model. So you can finish sketch or press a hotkey, and then I'm going to go to extrude. And now you can see that it's going to make the base of the model. So it's going to be 2 inches extruded. You can choose direction 1, 2, symmetrical or asymmetrical. In this case, we're going to go symmetrical because I want it to be fully centered. It's just a preference of mine, and I'll explain that in a minute as why that's important. So now we have a 2 by 2 by 3 inch box. Now we've got to start putting some features into it. So the first thing we're going to do is shell it. So you're going to press the shell feature, and you can remove faces on it. We're just going to keep the 1, and we're going to make it 1/8 of an inch thick, as you can see, and then we can click OK, and now we have a box that's 1/8 all around on all faces that aren't taken away. Now if you don't have the shell feature, I'm going to show you another way of doing the exact same thing but with sketches. And I'm actually going to show you a trick that can make your life easier down the road. So I'm going to first start off by making that 1/8 of an inch. And instead of writing 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to say that this is going to be equal to the first dimension I made. I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other two sides as well. Now the pro to this is, I'll show you. Now that these are all the same, if I decide that I want to change this to 1/4 of an inch, they'll all change to 1/4 of an inch. So you can instantly see a preview. It's less work. And then if I want to change it back, it just changes back a lot faster. This works really well, especially if you know you're going to keep all these dimensions the same. So that could be for patterns, it could be for anything. So we're going to keep it at 1/8 of an inch. We're going to extrude it. We're going to choose this feature. And now you can see it's adding material. We don't want to add material. We want to cut or remove material. And we're going to change this to 1 7/8. So it gives us 1/8 of an inch down here. Click OK, and it looks exactly the same as if we did the shell feature. Next, we're going to fillet. You don't have to fillet the edges. It can make a print look a little bit nicer. In this instance, it's just because I want to show you some of the different features. So we're going to make it 1/4 of an inch on the outside. I'm going to add another feature to this and make it 1/8 of an inch. Now, depending on your software, you might just have to do the fillet feature twice. In mine, I can do the 2 different dimensions in the same go. And I'm going to explain why it's important to do this. And this is just more of an engineering thing. So if you see here, the outside is twice the diameter, the radius size as the inside. And you can see it almost looks like it's uniform. So if I change this to 1/4 of an inch, it looks like there's too much material here compared to the wall. If I made it too small, you can see that it just looks like there's not enough material. So I usually do about half the radius on the inside to the outside to just make it look nice. Just a rule of thumb. There's no set rules for what you want to do. Now I'm going to show you how to do a mirror feature. So we're going to start off with a sketch, and we're going to put that in. I'm going to dimension that. Make it 1/4 of an inch. equal. And then we're going to make this 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to make the other side equal to that 1/8 of an inch. Cool. So we got the start of a border going here, and we're going to use a different feature. I highly recommend finding this if it's in your sketching repertoire. It's called offset. So I'm going to use it, and it'll offset a geometry or set of geometries one way or another. And I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch inside instead of outside. So now we got a nice little border, and I'm going to want to extrude that. I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch. Now for 3D printing with this overhang, you're going to lose some of that feature if you were to actually print that with an FDM printer. So we're going to actually chamfer this 1/8 of an inch around, and you could do a radius as well, but again, I just wanted to show you some different features. And as you can see, it makes it nice. It'll print that really nicely. However, with that sharp edge, you're going to lose some of that feature when you're printing. So a good rule of thumb is you want to change that. So I did that intentionally so you can see that, but let's go to 1/4 of an inch. And now you have a nice flat surface on there. So they would print a lot nicer that way on your 3D printer. And then next, I'm just going to do a circle. Going to dimension that to be 3/8 of an inch. Extrude that out. Cool. So we got our features. Now, here's how this mirror feature is going to work really nicely because of how we set up our model. I'm going to choose the features that I want and in my feature tree. So your feature tree may be on the left, maybe on the bottom, or somewhere else. It just depends on the software. But you're going to find your origins, and then you're going to find your mirror plane. So in this case, we're going to choose the YZ plane. And since it's centered, I know it's going to be exactly the same spot as the feature I already made instead of floating in the air or interfering with the model. So now we have the exact same thing on both sides, which is pretty awesome. Just the biggest reason why I try to center if I know it's going to be a symmetrical piece. Next, I'm going to show you how to do a circular feature. There's two ways of doing this, and I'm going to show you the better way of doing it because you have more control over what you can do. So we're going to make a hexagon. I'm going to constrain this so that the center point and this bottom point are in line, and then the center point is also in line with the center origin of the model. I'm going to dimension it to be 5/8, and then I'm going to also make it 1/4 of an inch in width. I'm going to extrude this out instead of adding, so we're going to make it 1/8 of an inch, cut out, the other direction. So we got this hole, it's hexagonal. Now we're going to do the circular feature. Now the reason why you do a circular pattern as a feature instead of on the sketch is you have way more control over what you can do, and there's just more versatility. So again, since I know that this is centered on that axis, I can use these axes instead of making a new one, and it's going to do 6 about 360, but if you change it to 180, you can see that it changes it as well. We're going to keep it at 360. And now we have this nice pattern. So one thing is if I don't like this, I can go back and change it to like 7 if I wanted to. We'll just keep it at 6. If you do it in a sketch, sometimes it's static and it's really hard to change some of these features depending on the software. Another nice thing is you can go look at occurrences, and I can actually suppress. So right click and suppress, and then it can get rid of one if I just didn't want one, but that spacing I wanted. So a couple nice things that you can really do with the feature versus a sketch. A lot quicker anyways. And then the last thing we're going to show you is how to do a rectangular pattern. So let's make a circle 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to dimension that 1/4 by 1/4. Extrude that out. And now we have this one hole, but we want the whole wall to be perforated. So we're going to make a rectangular pattern, again, is using it as a feature instead of in the sketch. We're going to choose the feature, we're going to choose the direction lengthwise, and then we're going to choose the direction, oops, wrong one, height-wise. But as you can see in the preview, it's not going into the model, so we just have to go to flip, and we're good to go. So we're going to make it 1/4 of an inch spacing by 3/8. So now you can see I have my 2x2s. So let's change this so that the height going up, we're going to go 5, and going wide, we're going to go 9. So now we're going to see it perforates the whole thing like that. And the last nice thing again is I can change this on the fly, but if I wanted to get rid of just one specific one, I can find it in the feature tree and just suppress that one. So that's just a couple key things that you can do for intro to design to start off with. If there's anything you'd like to learn, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Otherwise, this is Tyler with 3D Printersaur, and I hope you find this video helpful. Take care.